Are you ready to upgrade to the home that fits your family best? Take the first step of that process by giving my girl Stacy Westfall a call. She's partnered with Kaiser's Sweet Home Realty in Howard County, where they have the knowledge and resources to help you reach your goals. Stacy has quickly become a successful realtor in our area, and I'm so proud of her. She's not just a friend of mine, she's a mother and a local firefighter. Buying and selling a house is stressful, and having someone professional and trustworthy in your corner can make all the difference. Give Stacy a call today at 765-461-1243 and follow her on Facebook at Stacy Westfall Realtor. I'm Kayla Keith, and you're listening to Missing Midwest, a true crime podcast about those that have gone missing. Today's story is a famous one that happened way up in the sky almost 53 years ago exactly. Welcome.
DB Cooper.
It is.
Oh my goodness. I almost interrupted your intro because I was so hyped about this.
I know. I'm excited.
I love me a good DB Cooper
it's interesting.
documentary.
It's a missing case, but in this case, the person that committed the crime is missing.
I almost said respect. I kind of...
Dude, listen, it's kind of not to tip your hat to DB Cooper a
saying.
little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
It's I mean,
like, oh man, I've always been.
I think he got away with it. So like, it's hard not to just kind of be like, well, slow clap it out for him. The one that got away with he didn't hurt anybody.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's not hard to.
Like, listen, stealing is wrong. Stealing is wrong, but a good heist story like the Ocean's movies. I saw Ocean's 11 and I was like, I could not partake, but I want to watch every second of this.
I mean, it's like I said, it's hard not to be like, good job, bud. Good job.
I love this case.
The one that got away.
I never foreseen.
So, I mean, I don't know. Do you think he got away with it, or do you think he died?
I think he... I'll let you tell the story.
So
I've got rational thoughts.
I literally have 23 pages of notes here, so I'm gonna try to keep it and just give you guys like the case.
We're coming up on like the anniversary of this.
It happened Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971.
Okay.
So 53, almost exactly. What is the date today? Missing the 20-something. We're very close.
Like the day that this comes out. Yeah.
No, we would be.
The day this comes out is like the 24th.
Is it really?
21, 22, 23. 23 comes out.
Literally
23rd.
almost 53 years to the day. I knew it was close. I just didn't do the math on it. But yeah, so I'm not going to give you any Dollar General stats or location, population crap. I'm just going to get into it because, like I said, I have 23 pages of notes.
Well, time out. I do have a Dollar General announcement.
I'm sure you do.
Well, relax.
I'm going to let you go because it's Dollar General and I'm interested. What is it?
Also, subscriptions are $5. It's an important announcement. Anyways, other than that, so Dollar General. All right, I'm at the Dollar General today.
Did you buy me something?
The DG. No, I bought our son rubber bands for his project that he was obsessed over.
Okay.
I'm at Dollar General, annoyed that self-checkout won't work. I have to wait in line for this lady to buy literally every single one of these like chocolate like packages.
She must have everyone. Day. Leave her alone.
I was like, my goodness. Anyways, I get up there and the guy in front of me, and that was also behind her, was upset by this. And he was like, why can't we use the self-checkouts anymore? They've been closed for like 2 weeks. And he said, now, in social studies, we're working on primary and secondary sources. This is a secondary source. This is me saying this, okay? You are not hearing this from the Dollar General guy. I heard this from the Dollar General guy.
Okay.
But he said that Dollar General...
I feel like you're about to spill the tea. Are you supposed to be saying this?
This is DGT.
You won't sponsor us, so I hope that he's about to ruin something.
This is DGT right here. Dollar General tea. The guy at Dollar General, who was always there, said that corporate has said if you are going to use self-checkouts, you have to have an employee watch it. And if you're not going to have an employee watch the self-checkouts, then you do not use them.
Oh.
And he said, we can't pay another employee to watch it, so we're doing it. The guy's like, why is this? And he said, because of all the theft. They've had such a crazy amount of theft since they've started using self-checkouts that we've lost privileges. So the thieves out there have cost us the self-checkouts at Dollar General.
I don't think you've cost us anything because I hate self-checkout.
Oh my gosh, at Dollar General it's the best. You don't have to talk to anybody.
No.
You don't have to talk to a soul.
I don't care.
It's annoying at Walmart when you have a bunch of groceries.
They're all annoying.
No, if you're buying one thing, to be able to walk in, grab the thing, scan it, and walk out in 5...
No, it asks you 50 million questions. It
doesn't either. Nope.
Never works.
Nope.
No, I don't like it.
I'm upset.
I'm fine. Goodbye, self-checkout.
I'm upset about it.
Thank you for stealing enough to make them get rid of self-checkout.
You know the truth of why the self-checkout at your Dollar General is out of commission. Corporate said either
we probably all could have came to that conclusion on our own. I didn't need to hear it from them, but
it's official news. Okay. DGT. Carry on.
Speaking of Dollar General, the Christmas decor is really good. Anyway, November 24th, 1971.
Let's go.
Are you excited?
I'm hyped about this.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I was like, do I do this one?
I'm going to do my best. He's a criminal. Theft is wrong.
Do this one because everybody probably knows the story. But then I was like, you know what? It's sometimes a lot of people are like, yeah, I know that case. But like, have you actually heard the whole thing?
The details. The details.
And then we'll give you.
I'm a little mad that I didn't think to do this before because I would have loved to do this case. But carry on.
I thought you meant hijack a plane. And I was like, what do you mean you never thought to hijack a plane?
Wait till my 40s for that. But.
Yeah, midlife crisis. Go for it. Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971. A man carrying a black briefcase walked up to the flight desk at Northwest Orient Airlines in Portland International Airport. Okay, he paid cash and he bought a one-way ticket to Seattle from Portland, which is just a 30-minute flight. His name on the ticket was Dan Cooper. Witnesses said he was a man, mid-40s, dark hair, brown eyes. He was wearing a brown or black business suit, white shirt, black raincoat. Sounds pretty cliche if you ask me.
Businessman, fair enough.
Businessman with a black briefcase and a brown paper bag. That's what he had. Sketchy in an airport. I would see.
I don't think so back then. I think that's like what everybody was wearing.
Probably, but now I'm side-eyeing big time.
Yeah. That's
the brown paper bag is what did it for me. Why do you have a brown paper bag?
All I know is if I see a brown paper bag in an airport, I'm like, this dude, keep eyes on him.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he gets on flight 305, and he took his seat, which was in the last row, and he ordered a bourbon and a 7-Up. That's what he got to drink. Just gonna have a relaxing 30-minute flight, okay? The crew on the plane, there were 6 crew members, okay? So the captain, William Scott. The first officer was William Radazak. A flight engineer, Harold Anderson. And then flight attendants, 3 flight attendants, Alice, Tina, and Florence, okay? And then there were 36 passengers, one of which was Mr. Dan Cooper, okay? Everything's good. Flight takes off from Portland on schedule at 2:50 p.m., okay?
Okay.
As soon as it takes off, Dan Cooper here in his last row, he hands a note to flight attendant. I believe it was Florence. Yes, Florence Schaffner. He hands it to her. Florence friggin' rolls her eyes and she's like, another friggin' loser on this flight thinks he's gonna get lucky in the Mile High Club. And so she assumes it's his phone number and she threw it in her purse.
Nice.
Nice. This whole thing almost didn't happen. If he would have been like, well, damn it, never mind, plans off, like that would have been good, but he didn't. So he leaned over and he said, ma'am, you better read that note. I have a bomb. And she's like, oh, sorry, I thought it was
BRB.
I thought it was your phone number, and I was absolutely not interested, but now I'm a little interested. So she gets the note out of her purse. It would have taken me another 10 minutes to find it in my purse. She opens the note, and in very nicely printed, all capital letters, it says, I have a bomb in my briefcase, and I want you to sit by me. To which I would have been like, pass. I'm going to sit over here.
Yeah.
But she returned, he wanted the note back. And so she read it and she handed it back to him. And she walked over and she sat down beside him. And she asked him, can I see the bomb? And he opens his briefcase and she confirms that there were 2 rows of 4 red cylinders, which she said she thought were sticks of dynamite, as anyone would.
Fair enough.
She said there were wires everywhere, blah, blah, blah. So Mr. Cooper closes his briefcase and he tells Florence what he wants, okay? And so he had her write his demands on a piece of paper. Everything was through notes. I don't know. Dude liked a good note. And so he had her write it down and he told her to take it to the cockpit and inform the flight crew of what was going down. And so she writes down everything, and she walks to the front of the plane, and she hands the note to Captain Scott. And he took the note and read it, and basically the hijackers' demands were $200,000 in a bag by 5 p.m. He wanted 2 front parachutes and 2 back parachutes. He wanted the money in American currency, and all of it by 5 p.m. So immediately they're like, well, great, I'm not going to come for dinner tonight. So they are assuming right off the bat, they were like, okay, all of these parachutes means that he's going to jump out of this plane with hostages. And so they're freaking out.
Yeah.
And so they contact the people on the ground. I don't know what you would call it, like the landing people.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're like, hey, traffic control. That's what I'm trying to get at. Air traffic control. And they're like, got a situation up here. And they explained to them. And so air traffic control contacted the Seattle Police Department and the FBI. And they're like, we got a problem. And so they decide that since he was asking for those parachutes, that like they want to mess
business.
around.
He means business.
Yeah, business was happening. And so they're like, we're not going to like give him a fake parachute. We're not going to like try, like we got 36 people on here. Like we're going to go through with this. Like we're taking it serious. We've seen the bomb. It's here. Like dude's got a paper bag and wearing a black suit with a trench coat. Like we're going for it. And so they're obviously like, okay, we're going to need some time to come up with this, because I mean, that, I think they said it was like the equivalent of $1.5 million in today's current, like what it would be like. So it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, we are going to go with it. And so Florence, that flight attendant, she ended up being like the between Cooper at the back of the plane and the cockpit. Okay. Goodness. And so she's like,
hang in there, Florence.
Yeah. She's like, so we're going to do the thing, but we're going to need some time. And so they informed everybody on the plane. They're like, hey, we're having some mechanical difficulties. And so we're just going to like
keep fly
around for a little bit up here in the air. And so they actually flew around for like 2 hours. Sorry, excuse me. They flew around above Seattle for 2 hours while they gathered all of the demands that this person had made. Okay. They assembled the ransom money and the parachutes, and then they like were mobilizing all these like units of what was going to happen, because they were going to land and make this like exchange of money
and then go back up.
And then go back up is what the plan. Yeah. Well, they didn't know that at this time. Like they had been like discussing this plan with Mr. Cooper. And so during the flight from Portland to Seattle, he demanded that a flight attendant stay by his side at all times, like sit in the seat beside him, one of the flight attendants. And so there was one with him and then one going back and forth with like all these notes. She said that he looked out the window at one point and was like, looks like Tacoma down there, which like would mean he was like familiar with like the Tacoma area. And then they also told him that they were getting the parachutes from the McCord Air Force Base. And Mr. Cooper, he said, oh, that's only a 20-minute drive. Which he
had done his homework.
Yeah.
He was
like,
all
this
over
guy knows what's going on. Like, he knows what Tacoma looks like. For like, it's hard to look out the window of an airplane and be like, oh, look at that. Like, and know where you are from the air. And also, like, who knows Air Force Base? Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you where any Air Force Base is from where I'm at any given time unless I've been to said Air Force Base.
Yeah.
They said he was cool as a cucumber, not nervous. They said it was actually pretty nice. I think that's why it makes it so hard.
That's what I'm saying, man.
I think like and there's some other things that happen in here, and you're like, "That's a nice guy."
Like in the Oceans movie, they're like, I could be these guys' friend, even though they just robbed this bank from $1 billion.
Like, I feel like I call him Mr. Cooper. I feel like I need to be nice to him. Yeah, they said he was not nasty. He was never mean. They said he was a nice guy. So they just kind of chatted back there for a little bit while the airplane circled Seattle. So they're like getting their crap together. So I think it was Tina, the flight attendant, that stayed and sat with them. She said they just kind of talked for a while, and she asked him why he chose Northwest Airlines to hijack. And she said he laughed, and he said, it's not because I have a grudge against your airlines, it's just because I have a grudge. Isn't that interesting? Like,
I mean,
interesting statement. He said that the flight just suited his
so
needs,
ominous.
right? He asked where she was from, and she said she was from Pennsylvania, but living in Minneapolis. And she said that when she said Minnesota, he was like, that's a very nice country, like very nice country area. She said when she asked where he was from, he kind of got upset and didn't answer her, which I'm trying to hijack a plane, ma'am. I cannot tell you my personal history and my address, but good for her for asking.
Yeah.
I can see like casual conversation be
So
like,
where are you from?
yeah, so
What's your social security number?
Yeah, where you been? He asked if she smoked, and he offered her a cigarette, and she was like, no, I quit, but she went ahead and accepted it, probably because she was afraid to make him mad again. I don't know.
Sure.
So FBI was looking into this. I'm sure they're like absolute mass chaos on the ground at this point. And they're talking to people. So somebody interviewed one of the passengers on the plane that had gotten up to go to the bathroom like a few times, and he had like walked by Mr. Cooper. I keep saying Mr. Cooper, like a form of respect, Dan Cooper. And he said that his path was like blocked by like another passenger, while he was standing there waiting to get through, he asked Tina, the flight attendant, like, what mechanical issue is delaying us this long? And she said that Tina said that Mr. Cooper was initially kind of like amused by it, because like they were like, inside joke, like we're the only ones that know there's not a mechanical error.
Yeah.
And so they basically she kind of just like diffused the situation, and we're like, oh, we're just having some issues, like whatever, like go back to your seat. And she like persuaded him to like go back to his seat, and Cooper was like, I don't want that to happen again, like I don't want people getting up again. And she was like, noted. And so I guess they just didn't let anybody out of their seat again. I don't know. But she said he never once became irritated or upset. Like he was just very personal,
Waiting, just
very nice,
patiently
just
waiting for his
$200,000. Yeah. So the $200,000 ransom, they acquire it, they get it together. They said the bag weighed 19 pounds, and the money was 10,000 unmarked $20 bills. And they photographed as much of the money as they could. The FBI did before they gave it to him, and the serial numbers all started with L. And so they were trying to like, do what they could to be able to figure this out.
To find the money later on, at least track him somehow.
Yeah, because they didn't know what was about to happen. So, whatever. So, around 5:24 p.m., they notified Cooper that they were going to be landing soon. They said, the police have acquired everything that you've asked for, and we're going to land if it's okay with you. And Cooper's like, yes, go ahead and land. So they parked the plane, and they had it on they just kept it on the runway. Yeah, Cooper said do not take it to the terminal. So they just parked it on the runway, and Cooper wanted that a person from the airlines to approach the plane with the money and the parachutes. And he gave him a specific like entrance to use, which was like the airplane's front door, with like those mobile stairs that they can like push around. And so it was actually Northwest Seattle's operations manager that was designated to be the guy, which I don't know how, like, did they draw straws? Like,
rough day. Yeah.
Dang it. He did not want to be mistaken for
FBI,
a police officer,
sure.
Though, so he changed into regular street clothes because he had an airline uniform on. And he was like, no, thank you. Just a guy. And so he walks out. He had all the passengers remain seated. The ground crew attached the mobile stairs, which was what Cooper told them to do. And Tina exited the aircraft through the front door. She got the money and the parachutes, and she returned onto the plane, and she gave all of the things to Cooper. Okay.
Man, can you imagine if she would have gotten on the ground and just be like, I'm out.
Peace.
Yeah.
So after this, when he verified that he had everything, he agreed to let the passengers go. And so they're like, okay, thank you. So all the passengers get off. Cooper looks at the money. He's like, okay. And this is hilarious. So in an attempt to break the tension, Tina jokingly asked Cooper while he was going through the bills if she could have some of it. And she said Cooper shrugged his shoulders and handed her a packet of bills.
No kidding.
Yeah, and said, sure.
You've been through a lot, Tina.
Thank you for your help, Tina. Thank you for that bourbon and 7-Up that you served me earlier. And she said she gave it back to him and said, "Oh, I was just joking. I actually can't accept tips. It's company policy." To which I say, "Screw the company. I will be taking this money."
Thank you, sir. Right off the plane you go.
Literally. She said Cooper had tried to tip her and the flight attendants earlier in the flight with money from his pocket, and they had declined because it was against company policy for flight attendants to take, which, I mean, I think company policy is kind of out the door at this point.
Yeah.
For being hijacked.
I was going to say. Maybe just take the money, Tina.
And dude literally was going to give you the money. I would have taken it, but whatever. But what a nice guy. Mr. Cooper.
I'm telling you, he's not the monster.
He's not a monster.
Out of all the monsters we've covered in this podcast,
I know.
he is the least monster-like of them.
Bo Digital is the secret ingredient you need for success in marketing your small business. From logos and flyers to social media and videos, Bo Digital can create the marketing you need to set yourself apart. Oh, and they build websites too. Not only do they help my small business, but did you know that they help many others around Kokomo too, including Solidarity Community Credit Union, the Lindy Owsley and Chanel Cahill Real Estate Team, Hope Behavioral Services, and even the Kokomo Symphony. Let Bo build a custom plan for you today. Learn more at bowdigital.com. That's BOWE digital.com. So, passengers are safely off the plane. So it's just Mr. Cooper and the 6 crew members, okay? So, in accordance to his demands, Tina went back outside to get the parachute. Okay, so she carried on the money first, and then she went back outside and got it was like 2 trips to get the parachutes. So when she was bringing the parachutes back onto the plane, one of the other flight attendants, Alice, she asked if she could get her purse, which was in like one of the compartments behind Cooper. And he said, "Yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to bite you." It's so casual. Like,
I'm not a monster, man. Yeah. I'm just trying to steal $200,000.
So then the other flight attendant, I guess just in this moment of like, gosh, she's actually being nice, she was like, "So can we leave? Like the flight attendants?" And he said, "Yeah, whatever you girls would like."
Preferably. Would prefer to leave. Would prefer to get off the plane with a bomb on it.
I have some errands to run, so I'm going to go, but I wish you all the best in your travels. Alice and Florence leave, okay?
Tina's like, "I'm here for this whole thing."
Yeah, well, Tina was out getting the parachutes, so she wasn't there for the whole, like, "Can I get my purse? I won't bite you.
Yeah.
Can we leave?" type thing. So I don't know if Alice and Florence didn't tell Tina that they were allowed to leave. That's sad. Yeah. But you guys are jerks.
At this point, Tina's like,
Tina might be she might be going jumping with him. Like, yeah. He gave her the money. She's like, "I'm going to stick around. Maybe he'll give me the money." So when she brought the last parachute into him, they had given her printed instructions for how to use the parachutes, and she handed that to Mr. Cooper, and he told her he didn't need them.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
He was like...
Yeah. So, I don't know why Tina stayed.
She's like...
her friends, that was kind of a bitchy move to, like, leave the plane and not tell your friend, "Hey, he told us we could go." And she's like, "Hey, where'd my girls go?" And he's like, "Oh, they're gone." And she's like, "Oh, thanks." Yeah, maybe stick together on that one. Maybe tell your employee. Maybe she was like maybe she was like the work friend that nobody liked.
I don't think so.
You should be nice.
I think Tina was just she was in on this whole situation.
She might have been a true crime junkie, and Tina's like, "I'm staying." This was like Kokomo scanner for her. She's like, "This is gonna be on the scanner."
Maybe Tina in the back was like, "Hey, we're gonna blow this up," and he's like, "No, I just want $20,000. Hey, the bomb's fake. Hey, the bomb's fake. Go with it."
Yeah, I'll stay. She's like, "I have nothing else to do." Maybe the other ladies are married with kids and Tina was single, and she's like, "I'm bored."
Yeah, this guy's about to have $200,000. He's about to be a millionaire.
We'll see how this plays out.
This guy's going places, literally, out of the back of a plane.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, she's probably wondering what his plan is at this point. Like,
he's got 4 parachutes.
And yeah, which is a little scary, Tina, because there was like 5 people left on the plane and only 4 parachutes, but whatever. So there was a little problem with the refueling process because they had to refuel when they landed because they'd been flying around for 2 hours. And so they had to bring in like a second and a third truck to like complete the refueling process. And so during the delay, Tina said that Cooper was annoyed because they used a cloth bag instead of a knapsack, which I don't necessarily know what the difference between a cloth bag and a knapsack, like a book bag maybe. Maybe he wanted to put it on his back and jump, and he was annoyed. Anyway, he said that he was going to have to improvise how he was going to like transport the money. And so he got a pocket knife out and he cut one of the parachutes open, and then he stuffed the money into the empty parachute bag. So maybe he wanted it in like a book bag, and then and he want so he could jump with it. Maybe that makes sense.
I'm sure he knew what he was doing.
But Dan, Mr. Cooper, he's rolling with it here.
Yeah, he's a problem solver.
He's a problem solver, and so he just cut up one of the parachutes. Okay, so one of the FAA officials requested to talk to Cooper face-to-face when they landed, and Cooper was like, no, thank you. Tina said he got a little impatient and said it shouldn't be taking this long, and, quote, let's get this show on the road. So then he goes and he writes down his flight plan for the cockpit, the crew in the cockpit, and he tells them that they are going to head southeast toward Mexico City at the minimum airspeed possible without stalling. And he said that they are going to go at a maximum of 10,000 feet high. He also specified that the landing gear needs to be remain out, and that the wing flaps lowered to 15 degrees and the cabin remain unpressurized. Like, dude knew plane.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, he knew something about a plane.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of information that not everybody would even know what that means. I mean, I don't. Like, why? Why are we going at a minimum airspeed, and why can we not go up past 10,000 feet? Like, he knew something.
Yeah.
So the first officer that was in the cockpit, that I can't even pronounce his last name, Radek, I don't know. He told Mr. Cooper that the configuration would limit the aircraft's range to about 1,000 miles. And so he said we would have to stop for another refueling before we get to Mexico. If you want to do whatever plan you have, like, we got to refuel before we get to Mexico if that's what you want to do. And so Mr. Cooper and the crew just kind of like casually discussed the options that they had, and they agreed to the Reno Tahoe International Airport as the refueling stop. So that's where they were going to stop and refuel again, which I'm kind of like, that's a lot of fuel for, right?
At this point, he owes them 200,000. Like,
I guess I don't know, like, how often planes get fuel. I guess it must be a lot.
I mean, I'm just thinking of like,
I've never been.
We've had this guy on the ground. That'll be the second time we've had him on the ground.
Right? That's what I guess I was just shocked by that.
Yeah. I feel like when Tina got the parachutes, they should have been like teaching her how to do the sleeper hold or something.
Yeah.
If he lets go of the bomb, put him to sleep or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Giving her a syringe or something.
It's weird. So he told them that they needed to take off with the rear exit door open and the air stair extended. They objected to this for safety reasons, but he was like, no, it can be done, do it. And they were like, how about, he didn't like insist on it though. And they were like, well, we don't really like doing that. And he said, fine, we can just lower the staircase once we get in the air. And they're like, okay, fine. He asked for Tina there. Okay, I did forget about this. He did demand that Tina stay. He asked her to stay to assist.
She was good help.
He owed her money, honestly. Okay, so all that happens. Everybody's on board with the plan, okay? Back in the air they go, 7:40 p.m.
After Reno?
This is from the stop to get the money.
Okay.
In Seattle.
Yeah.
And so they take off. The only one on the plane at this time was Mr. Cooper and Tina, the flight attendant, and then Scott and Razchak. I don't even know their first names anymore. I think it was William and Bill. And then the flight engineer. Okay.
So 5 total people on the plane.
5 people on the plane. 3 parachutes.
Yeah.
Cut one up. They actually sent out 2 F-106 fighters from the Air Force Base to follow the plane, but they kept a distance to where, like, out of his view. Like, he wouldn't know that he was being followed.
Man, again, that's a lot more fuel. Like, so much fuel being wasted on this trip.
This is a huge taxpayer inconvenience. After they take off, Mr. Cooper told Tina to lower the staircase. She told him that she was scared that she would get sucked out of the airplane if she did this. And so they suggested that she come to the cockpit and get an emergency rope so she could tie herself to the seat. And he said no. And he didn't want her to go back up to the cabin. He was probably afraid she was just going to go and like not come back. And so she continued to tell him like, hey, I'm a little freaked out about this. And so she said, can you like cut some of that cord from the parachute like you did earlier? Like you cut it up, could you? And so I can tie myself to this chair because I really don't love the idea of the staircase being opened. And he was like, okay, fine, I'll just do it myself. You stay up here. Like he's a gentleman. Like I don't understand. And he told her, you just go to the cockpit, close the cockpit door. I'll do the stairs myself because she was too scared. Like, I mean, it was nice. So she did. So before she left, she asked him, Tina said she asked him, please take the bomb with you. And he told her that he was going to take it with him, or if he didn't, he said, I will disarm it for you. And she said, okay. So she walked to the cockpit, turned around, went inside, and she said the last thing she saw was Mr. Cooper standing in the aisle, tying that money bag to his waist. That's the last person that saw him, okay? So from the time they took off to when Tina went into the cockpit was like 4 to 5 minutes.
Wow.
Like they said, it was
So he's
really,
like, he had
really
no
soon.
intention of going to Reno.
And yeah, so that's
Smart.
the theory. So like, why did he sit there though and like make such an elaborate plan? Like they said he literally, him and the cockpit crew people like made a plan and like had this whole discussion about like, well, it's only 1,000 miles. So if you want to get to Mexico, we're going to have to refuel here. And then they like discussed.
Maybe it had everything to do with like the angle, the direction, the height, all that stuff. So, like he knew he was doing this whole way.
He knew it, but it was just like, yeah, like why have that entire conversation on the ground when you're like susceptible to the FBI and the
trying to
police
get going. Yeah, you think you'd be like in a hurry, like get us up in the air.
Well, we could land here, or we could land here, or we could refuel over there and then fly there. When he knew he wasn't going to land anywhere.
He might have had a dash of the crazy too, maybe, possible. Go ahead.
So 5 minutes after takeoff, the other 4 people that are on the plane were in the cockpit, and around 8 p.m. the cockpit warning light flashed, indicating that the staircase had been deployed. Scott, the pilot, used the plane's intercom, and he asked Cooper if he needed any help. And they said Cooper's last words to them was a 1-word reply, and he simply said no.
I got this.
Yeah. The crew said that their ears popped from the drop in the air pressure when the stairs were opened. So they knew like when the stairs had been opened. And when the cabin door opened, and the stairs were deployed. So they didn't know if he was still like in the plane or not. And so they used the intercom and they told Cooper that they were approaching Reno and that he needed to raise the stairs so that they could land safely. And they said it again and he never answered. They never got a reply. And so at 11:02, with the staircase still deployed, they landed in Reno. And the FBI agents, state troopers, every mall cop, and I don't know, probably everybody, sheriff, police, whatever, they established a perimeter around the plane because they didn't know, like, is he still on there? Did he jump? Is he lying? Is the bomb on there? Is whatever. And so they went in and the captain searched the cabin, and he confirmed that this man was no longer on board. And then after another 30-minute search by police, they declared that the plane was cleared, and then the bomb squad came in, and then they declared that the cabin was clear of all bomb. There was no bomb on the plane either.
Crazy.
What a night. Can you even imagine?
So one of the things that I've...
Freaking nuts, right?
I'll let you go. I'll let you finish.
So, that's the story. That's what happened. So...
Legendary. It's theft. It's wrong. We should not...
It's wrong.
Romanticize about DB Cooper here, but dude, come on.
So
that was impressive.
Some other information for y'all, okay? They found 66 fingerprints on the plane. Okay. They also found Dan Cooper's clip-on tie, and it had a tie clip on it. And they found 2 of the 4 parachutes, one of which had been cut open. Okay. They interviewed witnesses in Portland, Seattle, and Reno. And then they got a whole bunch of sketches from all of these people together. And that is where those famous D.B. Cooper sketches came from. We'll post them. It is like, I mean, even if you don't know the case, like you've seen those sketches. He's got like the sunglasses on. And then there's like one with no sunglasses. It's like classic.
For sure.
Classic FBI sketch. They immediately began questioning everybody. And in a rush, because it was crazy, okay? But there was a reporter, and he was trying to like say, like on his notes, he wrote, instead of the name Dan Cooper, he wrote D.B. Cooper. And then it like got published, and then all the other media places used it. And so he became D.B. Cooper, even though it was just Dan Cooper.
That's funny. I know him as D.B. Cooper. I didn't know that.
Everybody knows him as D.B. Cooper because the media went crazy with it, but really it was just like a clerical error.
That's funny.
It was just Dan Cooper. That's what he put on the ticket. But yeah. So where in the world do we search for this man's is what police are thinking, because we don't really know when he jumped. They know when the stairs got released. Yeah. And they know the path they were on.
But there's a lot of land between Seattle and Reno.
They also are like, we don't even know, like, I guess, which, like, on top of how much land there is to cover, they're like, so much also rides on, which I didn't know this about, like, skydiving or parachuting or whatever, but, like, when you pull your ripcord, like, how long did he free fall for? Yeah. Or, like, if he would have pulled his ripcord, like, immediately, he could have, like, coasted for miles outside of the course that he was flying on, or if he free fell, you know, he would land
right in the line.
Yeah. And so there was just like so much speculation, and like they had no idea, like none. And so there's just experts from all over. They're like calling in everybody. So December 6th, 1971, the FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, he approved the use of an Air Force Blackbird to retrace and photograph the flight path from that night. And they were trying to locate any of the items that he might have had or lost during his jump, okay? They made that flight path. They flew it 5 times, but they were never able to locate anything or see anything. Completely unsuccessful. Yeah, so
more taxpayer dollars, right?
More taxpayer dollars. I would love to know how much money D.B. Cooper cost
America.
Yeah. They did an experimental recreation. They flew the same plane, and they like pushed a 200-pound like dummy out, basically to try to like reproduce all this technical tailspin section cabin pressure crap. Sure. At the same time, like at 8:13 p.m., and they tried to like figure out like where the landing zone most likely would have been. And based on that, they said that it was within an area, the southernmost area of Mount St. Helens, which was a few miles southeast of Ariel, Washington, which was near a lake called Lake Merwin, which is like an artificial lake it was like a man-made artificial lake. And so they like concentrated on that area. It was 2 counties, Clark and Cowlitz counties. And so the FBI agents and sheriff's departments, everything, they like searched that area. They said it was really heavily forested, but they went door to door, local farmhouses, local property, helicopter dogs, all of it. They patrolled the lake. They even brought in a submarine to look into the lake.
Many taxpayer dollars.
How much does a submarine cost? Never found Dan. Never found any of his equipment. Nothing. Yeah, crazy. Stanley Cleaning Company has an exciting new service they are offering, and I can't wait to tell you about it. Laundry. Yes, they will come to your house, and for $15 a load, they will pick it up, take it, wash it, dry it, fold it, and bring it back to you. This is something I have dreamed about since I became an adult and started doing laundry on my own. Hit them up and get your place cleaned and your laundry done by my friends over at Stanley Cleaning Company. You can find them on Facebook or give her a call or a text at 765-860-3606. So that spring, when everything began to thaw out in early 72, they came up with some like National Guardsmen and civilian volunteers, a whole bunch of stuff, and they did another big search of those two counties for 18 days in March and 18 more days in April. No, didn't find anything. Yeah. Like I said, they had that freaking submarine brought in. During that search, though, they actually found a skeleton of a missing woman, a teenage girl who had went missing. She was abducted, and they found her body through the search, but they did not find Dan Cooper. Nothing. No material related to the hijacking at all.
I know the area is like so vast, but like the fact that they found nothing. I mean, here's the thing: if you would have got away with it, they'd have found nothing. Also,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, the early projections from the FBI on the zone that he would have been in was to the north of the town of Battleground, Washington. And so that's what, like I said, they had like, they assumed that he probably jumped out over the town of Center, Washington. And so that was the area that they thought he probably would have landed in. The FBI in 2019 released a report that the night that this happened, there was an unincorporated town named, it was called Hyson, Heisson, Hyson.
Sure.
I don't know, doesn't matter. Unincorporated, tiny, small town out in the middle of nowhere, okay? It was robbed the night that Dan Cooper jumped from the plane. And it was in the area, the projected area that he would have landed in, okay? The catch, though...
$200K wasn't enough.
The catch, though, is that the person only stole survival items. Beef jerky, gloves, and things like this. Some food and some supplies.
I mean, my thing is, though, he had all that cash, like, it would have been easy. He would have been on the news yet. He could have just walked in and, hey, I'm going to buy this stuff, and it would never set off any alarms.
True.
He's a smart guy.
True. But, I don't know.
Let's see, then again, though, he probably knew that they marked the bills, or at least that they
were going to be looking for the serial numbers.
Yeah.
So, the report notes that the guy was wearing some military-type boots, and when Cooper was on the plane, they said he was wearing, like, slip-on loafers. However, they do not know what was in that brown paper bag.
Okay.
And there's, like, speculation. They were like, if he was that experienced with jumping, it was 44 degrees that night. It was cold and rainy. So they said that it was probably goggles, gloves, and boots in that bag. So he could have had them on. Now, we'll talk about the money in a little bit, but, like, I would say he probably was smart enough to not spend that money.
Yeah.
Because they were going to be watching those serial numbers for sure. And they were. That's the number one thing they did. So I think he probably would have stolen some things. He probably asked nicely, though.
Yeah. Excuse me, sir. Trust me. Been through a lot today. I'm stealing all of this.
Long night, and
it's going to be best for you to just chill back there. All right?
Yeah. So, a month after the hijacking, the FBI distributed a list of the serial numbers to banks, casinos, racetracks, anywhere where there was large amounts of cash, okay?
Fair enough.
And to law enforcement agencies, like, literally across the world. They offered a reward of 15% of the recovered money to a maximum of $25,000.
Wow.
Interesting, huh? In early 1972, the U.S. Attorney General that year, he released the serial numbers. Wow. So
big yawn there.
He's got a big yawn, like right in the middle of the sentence. He released those serial numbers to the public, like a giant freaking scavenger hunt across the US.
I would collect one of those $20 bills.
Well, people, yeah, for sure. So in early 1973, since all the ransom money was still missing, the Oregon Journal republished the serial numbers and offered $1,000 to the first person to turn in a ransom bill to the FBI field office or to the newspaper. And then in Seattle, another newspaper did basically the same thing, and they offered a $5,000 reward. Literally, like a giant scavenger hunt across the world. Like, who can find this? It's like the golden ticket from Willy Wonka. Nothing ever got turned in.
I don't believe it.
What do you mean you don't believe it?
I mean, like, I think he was smart enough to be like, wherever he decided to...
He didn't. So my thing is, he didn't spend it at a racetrack. A $20 bill here and there.
Or you could wash it all in one shot by like, I'm guessing he went to another country. I'm guessing he had plans to get out of America. And if you did, then like say you're talking to a Mexican drug cartel,
yeah,
and just be like, you know, they just move that stuff around. They're not funneling it through banks and stuff.
I don't know. Nothing was ever found.
Man, still today, right? I mean, it never has been found.
Well, so later on, after people, as you can imagine, they've looked at this case forever, and so after more analysis, what's the plural of an analysis? More of the analysis. Wow, I don't know what to say.
Just move on.
Okay. They analyzed it more, and they kind of started to find out that the first estimated location of the landing zone was probably not accurate. The captain who was flying said that because of all those weird like demands of like the altitude and the speed and all this crap, he said he actually thinks that they were further east than they initially thought. And so using that information from the actual pilot who was flying the plane, and that with the flight data from the two planes that were flying behind them.
See, that's what I was like, did they never see a parachute? The plane's finally behind them.
So they did not. They said they never saw, but they were not in sight. They never laid eyes on it. Okay. Because they were trying to stay out of his sight.
Sure.
And it was very cloudy and rainy and pitch black. How could you see a little man dressed in black jumping from a plane, you know?
Man. I mean, I'm just thinking of like you might be able to locate the parachute floating down below you.
Yeah.
Especially if they were behind him that far.
They said they never saw anything.
See, that tells me too that he was like trying to land in that zone, which means he fell for a while before he pulled the thing. So you'd have to have experience doing that. You'd have to be an experienced plane jumper.
So, FBI recalculates all of their estimates for this drop zone, okay? And then they start searching those areas, still find nothing. They determined that the drop zone was probably over the Washagal River watershed. In 1986, an FBI agent, he wrote and he said, I have to confess, if I were going to look for Cooper, I would head for the Washagal. The Washagal Valley and the surrounding area have been searched a lot. They did not find anything. And they said that any clues that might have been there were destroyed when Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980 anyway.
Wow.
Yeah. So, July 8th, 2006, they announced that they are suspending the case of the Cooper case. They said that they have, bigger issues that are more urgent, more priority. They said that they would still accept tips and any evidence that they found, but they weren't going to basically put any more manpower into it. They had a 66-volume case file that they had compiled during the 45-year course of the investigation. And they said it would be preserved for historical purposes at FBI headquarters. And all of the evidence is open to the public.
Wow.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
It is still unsolved, and it remains the only unsolved case of air piracy in commercial aviation history. Oh, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the physical evidence, though, okay?
Okay.
So I told you they found the fingerprints, but they found besides the fingerprints, they found 4 major pieces of evidence on the plane, because they've never found any evidence of him after. But on the plane, they found that necktie. It was a black clip-on, and it was in the seat where he had been sitting. They said it was sold exclusively at JCPenney's, but it was discontinued.
Fair enough.
I feel like Mr. Cooper probably was a JCPenney shopper.
Sure, yeah. Or shoplifter, either one.
He might have stolen it, I don't know. I bet he asked nicely, though.
Yeah.
In late 2007, they had built a partial DNA profile from samples found on his tie. But they acknowledged that like none of that linked Cooper to the source of the DNA sample. So like they didn't know if it was actually his DNA.
Yeah.
Like it could have been touch DNA from anything else. They went through they made a public file with all of this evidence in it. The DNA samples, the necktie, the tie clip, the fingerprints. They also had a hair sample. They actually had 2 hair samples. Only one of them was usable. And so they had saved that. They didn't know if it was from him or not as well, but they have that saved. But when they went back later to go through it, they lost it.
Oh, man. Wouldn't it have been wild if, like, in our lifetime, somebody had been like, hey, we found out that this hits on D.B. Cooper, and he was your, like, great-great-great uncle or something?
That's what I was thinking when I was reading this. I was like, oh, my gosh, what if, like, it ends up being, like, an ancestry or, like, ancestry DNA or something?
Be like, that's so crazy.
23andMe?
My great-grandpa paid for all of my college. I never knew him.
Well, yeah, Grandpa was so rich, but he never worked at Annie's Life, and we didn't know why. Yeah, that'd be weird. Anyway. And so they had this like partial DNA profile built, but they weren't sure if the DNA was actually from Cooper or not. So in 2009, basically a group of like citizens were like, hey, this information is public. Like, we'll work. I might not have time anymore.
Web sleuths, baby.
Web sleuths. And so they got a whole bunch of like, you know, professional people, computer scientists. They had all these different things come together to look at that evidence. And this is crazy. Okay. So they looked at the tie that clip-on tie that he left in the seat, and they used an electron microscope and they identified these like spores that were on the tie, and they found particles of unalloyed titanium and like a whole bunch of other like sulfide, aluminum, all these like titanium alloys and stuff. And there was like only one career or one job back then that somebody would have had those things on.
Web sleuths, baby. And
it suggested that whoever wore that tie worked for Boeing, like the aircraft carrier. Or another aeronautical engineering company, because that chemical was only used in the metal fabrication for airplanes. So they're like, no wonder this dude knew everything about airplanes, because he freaking built them.
Man. Which makes a lot of sense.
Right? And so they basically said that in the 70s, they used this certain type of rare titanium, and it was only used in aircraft fabrication facilities. And that is the exact stuff that they found on that tie. And so they were like, yeah, I'm like, he probably worked with it, which that actually makes sense, because remember when he said he had a grudge, not against your airline, but a grudge. So maybe he had a grudge against the plane, because it was a Boeing plane.
I mean, even then, you're stealing money from the government.
Yeah, but the hijack part, I mean, he's pissed about something, and he hijacked a Boeing plane because...
I mean, if you know planes, though, and you're like, I need money, and I'm mad at the government, I'm going to steal, like, the planes is your way.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. So like I said, the hair samples they found have been lost, so they weren't able to really do anything with that. They also found some cigarette butts, and they didn't find any fingerprints on them. So they returned those to the FBI office, and there was no fingerprints. And so they later, when DNA became more popular, they went to go get the cigarette butts to see if they could get DNA off of them, but they had gotten lost as well. So
wait a minute now. So the hair was lost, the cigarettes were lost.
Yeah, and then the only other evidence they had was the tie and the tie clip.
Man.
So 4 pieces of evidence, 2 of the 4 gone.
Listen, it's occurred to me before that he could have had his own little Oceans team doing a bunch of stuff. Everybody gets their cut.
So,
including somebody that could wash all the money.
So, I mean, what if Tina was in on it?
Tina, my girl, taking care of business up there. All right.
So, On February 10th, 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian was on vacation with his family, and they were staying beachfront on the Columbia River, which was about 9 miles downstream from Vancouver, Washington, 20 miles southwest of the town of Ariel, which was in the possible area where he would have landed.
What year did you say this was? I'm sorry.
1980.
Okay.
He was playing in the sand, and he uncovered 3 packets of money totaling about $5,800. The bills were like pretty much completely disintegrated because they'd been like buried in the sand, but they were still bundled in rubber bands. FBI confirmed that it was indeed a portion of the ransom money from the D.B. Cooper hijacking.
1980, so only 9 years after the fact.
Yeah. So 2 packets of $120 bills each, and a third of a packet of 90. They were all arranged and all bundled the same order that they were given to Cooper, the same serial number order that they were given to him in. So that pretty much raised more questions.
Yeah.
Because they're like, what? It didn't look like they had been submerged in water or buried at the time of the hijacking in 71. Like, they didn't know what was going on. So they looked at the, there was some sort of form of like, I don't know if it was like algae or something on it, but it only bloomed during the springtime. And they found that on that money. And so that indicated that the money had only entered the water within the last several months, not like the night of the hijacking.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, my thing that is, stuff gets frozen. I mean, stuff's freezing then. How does that preserve it and mess up your science?
I'm sure a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So they looked into it. They looked at the bills. In 86, they like negotiated like who gets that money. And so they divided them equally between Brian Ingram and Northwest Orient's Insurance, like their insurer, which was Royal Globe Insurance.
Who's Brian Ingram again? Was that the kid that found it?
Yes.
Okay.
So Brian got half of it, and then he had to give back half of it to the insurance company. The FBI kept 14 bills for evidence, okay? Brian sold 15 of those bills at auction in 2008 for $37,000.
Good for him, dude. Good for him, man. Good for him.
Which is the equivalent of $52,000 in 2023.
Wow.
2024, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brian, that was a productive day at the beach for Brian. I hope he kept one of them.
Me too.
So that is the only physical evidence of the hijacking that has ever been found outside of the plane. Everything else they found inside the plane. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
In November of 78, a deer hunter found a Boeing 727's instruction place card for lowering the air stairs, which was interesting. It was found 13 miles east of Castle Rock, Washington, which was just north of that lake, and within the flight plan that they assumed it would have went through. So suspect profile from the FBI. I'm still going. I'm sorry. This is a long one.
It's okay.
So the flight attendants who spent the most time with him, they gave so many interviews, and they gave identical descriptions of him, which is how we got such good
pictures, drawings, sketches.
They have said that those sketches, so they showed it to, so obviously it came from the flight attendants that spent half their night with him. And then there was another man that sat across from him. He was a University of Oregon student. He sat across from Dan for the 3-hour flight, and he helped with the FBI sketches as well. And all of them are like, yes, that's him, like identical to who we saw and who we talked to. And so they're pretty confident that's what Dan Cooper looked like.
Fair enough.
They released an 8-page profile of him. So I'm just going to go through real quick and tell you, because we love a good profile over here. They said that he was obviously military trained parachutist. They said he was not a sport skydiver. They said that since he was so familiar with military parachutes that they provided him with, and then they said that his age would have made him like like he would have stuck out if he was like skydiving for sport. And like when you skydive for sport, you're usually like there's a skydiving community because not a lot of people skydive for fun, you know?
Yeah.
And they said that somebody would have recognized him as like, oh yeah, we see him. He's skydived, because you can't just go out and skydive.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, took my plane up and skydived today. Like somebody had to fly you up there.
Right.
And for as experienced as he was, they said he probably had like a lot of jumps under his belt. Somebody would remember him.
Yeah.
So they're like, he definitely learned this in the military. He wasn't just out there doing like 40. There's no like 40-year-olds just like jumping on planes for fun with their friends right now. So they're pretty sure he was from the military. Air Force veteran. They said he was familiar with Seattle area because he had recognized Tacoma from the air, and he made that comment about how
it would only be in 20 minutes away from the Air Force Base.
And they said most civilians would like not know the proximity of that Air Force Base to the airport at all. They said his mannerisms. They said his vocabulary, the planning.
Well, I was thinking military when he was just so calm through all.
Yeah, they said his calm. They said he used aviation terminology. Not a common criminal. They said he was intelligent, not impulsive. They said he was not rattled. They said that he had obviously had a clear plan, and then it had to be changed, which I don't think that was his plan anyway, to land in Reno. They were like, well, we told him we had to change the plan because of the fuel, and he didn't care. I don't think he cared.
I've been thinking about that though. Think about it. You said that every single cop in the world would probably be down there. FBI was probably down there. What a good move. Hey, we've got all this attention here in Seattle. Yeah. Let's get that attention somewhere else. Let's put it in Reno and then jump out way before we get to Reno.
Yeah, I think he had every intention of jumping out of that plane in between Seattle and Reno.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever planned on stopping there, but he made them think that he was going to stop.
By giving them a location.
Yep, which was smart.
Yeah.
They said this was a very procedure-oriented plan, very methodical. They said he adapted quickly. Competent. They said he probably worked independently and he did not want or need an accomplice. They believe she did it alone. They said that they believed she committed it alone because they said there was like no way he would have been if he would have had like a car waiting for him. There was no way to communicate with the car
where he was going to
jump or land or anything like that. And they said they don't even think he knew where he was going to jump or land. And so they think he was working alone.
Wow.
They said his financial situation was probably desperate. They said that a retired FBI chief said that criminals who steal large amounts of money usually always do because they need it quickly. Like it's an urgent situation. Because they said the crime would not be worth such a big risk.
Sure. That's fair.
Yeah. They said
but I feel like also though, that's enough to start a new life. Like if you were like, if it wasn't financial reasons, if you were like, I'm just ready to get out and start a new life, $200,000 to do it.
Well, yeah,
especially back then.
Yeah. They said at first they considered that he was just a thrill seeker who was like, I just want to prove I can do it. But then they said they did not think that. They also said that he spilled, that bourbon and Sprite or this bourbon and 7-Up he had.
Yeah.
He accidentally spilled it and he didn't ask for another one. And so they said he probably wasn't a heavy drinker. And they said like an alcoholic would have wanted another one because they were getting ready to hijack a plane and they would have been stressed out. They said that based on the number of cigarettes he smoked during the flight, he probably smoked a pack a day. So there was it was a Canadian comic book about an adventure hero named Dan Cooper, and they believe that is where he was a pilot, and they believe that that's why he was like, oh, my name's Dan Cooper on the ticket. And this Dan Cooper guy in the comic, he was a skydiver. Yeah. So they said that this was they were not translated to English or imported into the United States. And so they said that he probably encountered them in the military when he was over in Europe.
The comic books?
The comic books, yeah.
Interesting.
And that he probably spoke fluent French.
Wow.
Yeah. Johnny, question for you.
Yeah.
If I was somewhere in Kokomo and it wasn't our house and it wasn't the flower shop, where would I be?
Easy. Humble home.
Yes, you're right. You guys, listen up. Humble Home is my absolute favorite place to be for so many reasons. No matter what I'm looking for, I always check Humble Home first. Clothes, shoes, toys, decor, furniture, makeup, they literally always have something that I need. They have brand name items for cheap. Their inventory is constantly changing, so it's part of my weekly routine to do a Humble Home walkthrough. You absolutely need to stop by. I promise you won't be disappointed. While it is a discount store, it's not your average discount store. It's clean, organized, and everything has its place. I get zero anxiety when I go in, unlike other discount stores. And no matter what you're shopping for, a home project, gifts, home decor, even seasonal decor, they will have it. They are open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday from noon to 5. You can follow them on Facebook at Humble Home Kokomo and watch for new items every single day. And for our Lafayette, Indiana listeners, I have exciting news. They are opening a second location in Lafayette soon. As soon as I have the details, I will let you know their opening date. Get excited.
So basically they were like, yeah, he definitely planned this. It was very detailed. He obviously knows what he's doing. Not only does he know what he's doing, he knows the exact plane and how it works because he chose a seat at the back of the plane so he would be able to watch and no one's behind him or anything. He also said that they also said that he asked for 4 parachutes because he didn't that was strategic. Like he never planned on making anyone jump with him, but he wanted
them to think he
was, so they wouldn't give him a faulty one.
Yeah,
which was smart. They said the choice of bomb was smart because most hijackers use something people would try to rush and attack somebody with a gun or a knife or something, but with a bomb you don't want to do that.
Right.
He did not leave his evidence. Every note he passed, he asked for it back and took it with him. They said he demanded every note be returned to him, and she said Tina said that she used the last match. He had a matchbook, and she lit one of his cigarettes for him, and it was when she went to throw away the matchbook, he asked for it back, and he put it in his pocket, the empty matchbook.
Look at him go.
Right?
That's details.
I know. Man. They said the only evidence, he forgot his clip-on tag in his seat.
It wasn't enough to get him.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, if he was 40 at the time, that's over 50 years ago. He's in his 90s. Can you imagine if he's still alive in his 90s, watching every Netflix documentary that comes out about him, laughing at all of us?
Gosh, that's crazy. If you are listening, Mr. Cooper,
you're a criminal. I don't condone what you did, but my man, that was wild.
If on your deathbed you shall decide to tell somebody what you did, please.
You're worth
tell Missing Midwest so we can
honestly
we solved it.
You're worth my extra tax dollar every month that I've had to pay for my whole life.
Yeah, we're probably still paying for
that's all I'm saying.
Submarine searches we need to do. Something else that they noted was that the specific plane he hijacked was a 727, and so they had actually when they built this particular plane, the air stairs on the back of it and the placement of the engines. It was one of the only passenger jets where you could parachute from. And so they had actually been using those overseas in the war to do drops and stuff. But they said the general public didn't know that you could open. There was an override button at the back of the plane that you could drop the air stairs during flight. Well, you would never do that when you're transporting passengers,
right.
But they did it in war to do airdrops.
Jeez.
And they said he had to have known that because he told her he'll just do it himself.
Yeah.
He knew.
I think it's funny. So they were like, do you need any help? And he was like, no.
Yeah. So, I mean, he knew that plane.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's pretty, he was in the military.
For sure. I agree. Had to have been. And just his demeanor, calm and collected through the whole thing.
They said that was the most significant knowledge they had to prove that he was in the military because they also said it could not be overridden from the cockpit, that button.
Yeah.
So he knew he could open that staircase during flight and use it to parachute out of.
That's wild.
Yeah, and it had to be that specific type of plane.
Yeah.
So it all played into his
crazy.
Yeah. There's no situation, like I said, there's no situation on a passenger plane you would need to know that.
So,
no passenger
right.
plane need to know that. Again, familiar with parachutes. They said that one of the ladies said that he put that parachute on as though he did it every single day of his life.
Wow.
Like they said, he definitely knew military style parachutes. So, gosh, sorry, this is a long one.
I can't imagine like being like, okay, here's the parachutes for this freaking guy that's hijacking this plane. Like he's probably gonna use it. Like this guy's jumping out of that public airport or that public transportation airplane right there. Like,
yeah. So there was somebody that did an investigation on it, and a lot of people said they believe that he was a paratrooper, but one of the investigators said he thinks that he was actually an Air Force aircraft cargo loader, because that would have given him the aviation knowledge and experience. But also they said that cargo loaders had to have jump training, and they had to wear emergency parachutes every time they flew.
interesting.
And so because they had to know how to dispatch items from planes mid-flight.
Interesting.
So that is like one job that would have had covered everything.
All the knowledge. That's a fair assessment. I mean,
but he also said that would have given him the sufficient knowledge on how to jump, but not necessarily how to survive a jump. So I don't know.
and aren't there like some theories out there that like I know there are theories that I've heard of before that say he could not have survived the jump based on where it was.
So that's so I'm trying to wrap it up here. I know this is a long one, but basically the FBI from the get-go said he could not have survived his jump. They said the reason being lack of skydiving experience, lack of proper equipment for his survival of the jump. They said the temperature and the weather that night was awful, and the terrain in which he would have landed in was really wooded, and they said that it would have been like very rough and he would have died, obviously. And the ransom money has never been used. So the FBI is like, he did not survive. Like, he died that night. He did not survive the jump. How long? So, I mean, for those reasons, that's what the FBI says, but there's a lot of speculation. So, actually, it was rumored that an actual FBI agent said, like, they were just, the FBI released that information, like, oh, he would have died to discourage other people from doing it.
Yeah,
because it was such a good plan.
Yeah, well,
and it went off so well, and they were like, no, you would not survive, you would die. But really, they were like,
and it's like embarrassing.
They keep saying that it was terrible wind and it was too cold and stuff, but it was 44 degrees. And they said there's actually like a lot of areas that like he could have landed safely in. Like, it's not as bad as they made it out to be. And so they said he didn't appear to have the equipment necessary for his jump. They said he didn't have a helmet, and it was cold out. But like I said earlier, we
don't know what was in the plastic bag, the brown bag.
After Tina went up there, like they said, it was a little bit before they felt that air pressure change. So like he could have been waiting until he saw. Well, first of all, he could have put on the boots and the gloves and the goggles or a helmet or whatever was in his brown paper sack. But also, like, who's to say they were flying low? Like, who's to say he wasn't looking for like a certain town?
And it was near Mount St. Helen, so that's a pretty easy landmark to be able to like say like
know where you're at or something.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. They also said you can't steer a military parachute. It just goes down. They said it wasn't like...
Oh, really?
That's what they say. So
interesting.
They said no experienced parachutist would have jumped in pitch black night in the rain with the wind wearing loafers and a trench coat.
But like a military guy that's done it several times would.
So that's what the FBI says. Pretty much everyone online is like, yeah, the FBI just didn't want anyone else to do it because it was a really good plan. They said that basically, so there's like 3
I feel like
hijackers who have survived similar conditions and were completely fine. So there was one guy named Martin McNally. He jumped using only a reserve parachute, no protective gear, over Indiana at night. They said he did not know even how to put the parachute on. They had to put the parachute on for him.
Wow.
In the plane. And
absolutely not when I do this.
Right? And they said that the pilot increased the airspeed and was going twice as fast as when Cooper jumped. And they said this wind caused violent wind speed. Dude grabbed the money bag and jumped. Landed completely unarmed, except for some scratches in the middle of Indiana.
Wow.
Pitch black at night, okay?
I feel like every single inch of America is a safer bet to jump out of on top of than what the military guys have to do over in Europe and all those things. So
another guy, he hijacked a plane in Pennsylvania and he had it fly over and he jumped out into a jungle in Honduras and he survived. Wearing, ready for this? Shorts, a shirt, and cowboy boots. Right? So like they're like, yeah, that's pretty much just the FBI trying to say he couldn't have done it, but he did. So I mean, that's pretty much, I mean, there's I could keep going all night, you guys. There's a list of suspects. There are people that have confessed on their deathbeds. John List.
What an interesting way to go out. Be like, by the way,
I'm Dan Cooper.
I'm Dan Cooper.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think with just every single tiny, minute detail that he had planned for the entire heist,
100%.
He had to have had all those details planned for after he jumped out of that
That's what
plan.
I'm saying. He did not plan that so much detail to just jump out and wing it from the jump.
Yeah.
He had a plan.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the fact that we've never, I mean, finding a little bit of the money means nothing to me.
Yeah.
That means nothing.
Also, they were like, do you know how many people, I read something, they're like, do you know how many people jump out of planes, like, severely injured and just, like, still survive and they don't even do anything? They just float down, like, you know what I mean?
I have all the confidence in his jumping ability, all the confidence in the fact that he had a plan to hike or do whatever he needs to do to get to a certain point to get out. He had a plan.
Yeah,
I assume he left the country.
Yeah, I think, yeah, they were like, the FBI's like, so for some reason they were like, the FBI likes to say that the weather was bad, but it wasn't really that bad.
Yeah.
And also they were saying that the unused money, but like, I think it would be, they were $20 bills.
Yeah.
Like if you pieced that out, like, I don't think it would be that.
I mean, eventually they start showing.
So they
up.
said about a month after, like, nobody was checking them anymore. Like the banks couldn't check every big thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, you just go, hey, can I get change for 20? Hand somebody 20, they give you 2 10s. Now it's clean. But like, I think the easiest way to do it would be to go out of the country, use your cash to, cash in. Because like, honestly, all these, like, when you go to a different country, I believe this is how it works. If you want to buy currency, like, you give them American cash, they give you their currency. Yeah. Those people just hold that American cash until somebody else needs to switch it the other way. It's not like a bank,
Especially in like the 70s. I mean, it wasn't like...
I'm saying our dude I think
he did it. I think
lived it up somewhere on a beach.
Mr. Cooper pulled it off. You will never hear me say that I'm going to tip my hat to a criminal because I love justice. I love the justice system. But I think
he's a legend.
I think I have to tip my hat
to
Mr. Cooper. He was nice about it. He was polite.
Took care of Tina.
He wasn't mean. I mean,
maybe that money he found had a little note with it. They said 14 and that disintegrated over time or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've met people at the local McDonald's that were meaner than Mr. Cooper.
Yeah.
Like, he was... I hope he lived. I hope he was happy. I hope he's still alive. I hope he tells us one day.
Yeah.
Or maybe the family will know. Or I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever find out.
Again, tip my hat. Only D.B. Cooper knows something. Only Dan Cooper knows something.
Yeah, maybe.
No one else knows nothing on this.
Just Dan.
Just Dan. If you like Missing Midwest, you will love Murdered Midwest. For just $5 a month, you can get access to an extra episode each week, plus over 50 backlogged episodes. Subscribe using the link in the show notes. This podcast is a So.Will.I.Studos production. So will I.
Did you know the Jefferson House of Flowers has been a local Kokomo florist for almost 100 years? Our trained designers make beautiful arrangements for literally any occasion. You can send flowers for any reason. Birthdays, anniversaries, get well, congratulations. The list goes on. We make flowers for funerals, weddings, proposals, and even proms. Let's be honest. Receiving flowers, whether you're at home or at your work, it makes you feel special. You get butterflies and you feel loved, and that's what sending flowers is all about, the feeling it creates. Call us at 765-452-8269 and let us create something special and send it out for you. Or you can stop in and see us at 4300 West, 100 North Kokomo. We always have a cooler full of flowers that are ready to go, as well as a boutique full of gifts. Shop local, support local, and send flowers.